What's up, guys? Welcome back. In the last episode, we were talking about using print statements, and we left off with me showing you that you can print the name of an object that the script is in and other things like that. This episode, we're going to cover two different topics. We're going to cover both data types and we're going to be covering variables. So, the main thing about data types is okay, well, we'll start. There's multiple kind of data types. The three main data types that you need to know about are booleans, numbers, and string values. So each one is a little different. So we're gonna put a new script into the workspace here by right-clicking, inserting object, and a script. So you already have the print statement, it just gives you automatically, but we'll just leave that there for a minute. So we have booleans, which is basically saying true or false. So we'll just do is tall, and you could put it is true. Oh, sorry, it's lower. Sorry, I can't type today apparently. But okay, so this would be an example of a boolean. You could also do something like print true. And as you can see, it'll say that it's both the print when it's still highlighted, and it'll tell you that it's a boolean. And it'll give you tips here just so you know like the kind of things that you're using. So just like you can do true, you could also do false. And that's all booleans really are. So on to the next one, the numbers. I mean, I'm sure you guys all know what numbers are. We can just put age equals 5 or 50, and this is a number. We'll just start with number. So that's what that is. And the last one, which is actually what we talked about last time, are strings, which would be you can either use the double quotations like what we were using before, and we'll just say hello, but you can also use the single quotations, and both will give you the same exact thing. It doesn't really matter which you use, both are gonna do the same thing. Some people might use them for different reasons, like if you're using a quote or you're saying something, maybe you would want double quotes, and when you're doing like a value, like when you could do money equals single quotes cash, because you could have like cash on a leaderboard. But if you want somebody to say something, then you could use double quotes like that. So those are the three main data types. And one thing you can do for yourself is if you want, you can use double lines, and anything that you do is considered a comment and it won't run as code. So it's useful if you want to make notes to yourself while watching the video and recall later why you did something or what something was called. So we can put that as a boolean. We can do this as a number and this as a string. So the second part of the video that we're going to talk about is variables. So we're kind of already using variables here in the examples. A variable is a container for something else, or also you could call it a reference. So just like how I have number equals 50, well, number is the variable, but not to be confused with the number data type, which is the 50. So like I typed a minute ago, we could type age, which is the variable, equals 20. So your variable is age, and what the age equals is 20. I used this in the last video example of printing something where we printed the variable. So I will remove all of this and we can have some more examples here. Well, instead of removing it, I'll just comment it out so it's not considered code. So we could have age equals 20, which is a number type, but it's also inside of a variable. we could have quote equals hello. So now we have another variable known as quote, but this variable is containing a string. So instead of the variable containing a number, it contains a string. But the variables would work the same way if you're just printing them. So we can go down below it and we can do print age, and then we can also do print quote. And then we can run it and see in the bottom here, we have both our quote and we have our age. So there are different reasons that you can use variables. Usually it's often to save time or when you don't know what something's going to be yet. Like if you want to set the current player level, but that player level is going to be changing constantly. So what you're going to do is just have a variable that would be player level, and then whenever the game gives you experience points or you level up, your player level would level up. So it would increase the variable that you have. Or like let's say you have a message for people when they join the game. So we'll just do welcome message and we'll just put the quotes and say welcome to my game. So now imagine you have a menu in your game and you don't want to type this every time that somebody joins, or you don't want to type it in every menu if you have it in more than one menu. Because maybe this is something else. Maybe this is player level, but it's going to be in like 3 different menus. So you would just type one variable and then set it to everything that is going to be in that one variable. So then we could do print welcome message. And then when we run, it prints the welcome message. Now the players won't see this when they join the game because this is just a debugging tool, but it's useful for in other circumstances, like what I mentioned a moment ago. You can do math with variables too. So let's say you have your age equals 20, or no, let's say you have health equals 20, or we'll start at the 100. Health equals 100, and let's say your damage that you would take from an arrow or a sword would be equal to 10. So you could print, if you wanted to calculate the new health, like let's say later in your script, you had a function that would just make you take damage every time you got hit by a sword. Well, you could calculate that by doing something like new health, or yeah, new health, it would be equal to health minus damage. And sometimes it'll autofill it for you if you have it turned on in your beta file. So I'll show you how to do that right now. You can go to File, Beta Features, and then you have all these options here. What I recommend the most is the Assistant Preview. I'm not exactly sure what the Dragger quality of life improvements does, but I do have that turned on too. And I'll just show you guys what all I do have turned on by scrolling it. Feel free to pause and copy what I have if you want, but it's not necessary. So now I have a new variable, and this variable is subtracting one variable from another variable because each of the variables are just representations of numbers. So when the game looks at this and it reads through the script, what Roblox is seeing is new health equals 100 because health is just another way that you're saying 100 minus 10 because damage is just another way to say 10. So I'm going to remove the original hello world, and I'm also going to remove the script from last time so the output is more clear. So now I could print my new variable, new health. And you'll see when we run it, it prints 90 because it did the math for me. And that's really useful later on. Like if you make a game like a Tycoon or something, where your cash is constantly changing, you're constantly buying things, it works really well this way. So you don't have to manually enter so much different information. It makes it way faster to write this code. So one thing that's important when you're doing variables that I haven't mentioned yet is when you're writing your script and you're going to create a new variable, at least for now, you should always type local before your variable. Because if you don't, then if you try to write the word health in a different script, it's going to use the 100 if you didn't use local. Because local keeps the variable to only functioning in this script. You can have the script still affect something outside of the script, but another script won't be able to use the same variable. So that way you don't mess up the coding between scripts, forgetting that you already made a variable with one name and you accidentally reset it with another script because you gave the same variable a different name. So you could also set a variable equal to something in the game. So for example, like how last time we printed the name of a block, I'm going to do the exact same thing again. But for this example, you don't really have to understand exactly how this is going to work, but just know that I'm setting a variable equal to the name of the block. So I'm going to put the script in the block only because I'm going to use a short method, which is saying the script.parent, which means that whatever the script is inside of. So what I can do is part name, which could be anything. Your variable can be named anything you want as long as it's not something that already exists within Roblox. So I'm going to do part name equals script.parent. And now what I can do is I can print the variable which is equal to the part name. And this is just an example. You don't have to actually understand how this works in this video, but it'll at least show you what the variables are capable of doing. So the script parent is block. So the part name is now, oh, okay. So I do have to put dot name at the end of this. So it knows what it's looking for. So now part name variable is equal to the name of the block. So when I run it, it's going to print block because it's printing the variable name, which is set to that item. So now the capitalization, like I was saying in the last video, matters a lot because, for example, how I have the variable name set to part name with a capital P and a capital N. Let's say I print part name, but I give it a lowercase p. So when we run, it's not going to print it. It's going to print nil because it currently doesn't have anything set to part name with a lowercase p. And that what that means is that you could have two variables named part name, one with a capital P and one without a capital P, and they can be completely unrelated to each other because the capitalization is different, so the game sees it as something that's completely different. So another thing is that when you watch other videos or when you see other scripts from maybe the toolbox or just online from someone else asking questions, you may see people name their variables differently. And you'll hear of different ways to do it. And some people say one way is the best, and some say another's the best. But honestly, do what works for you because it really doesn't matter. And what I mean by that is there's something called camel case, which is what the majority of people use that have experience coding. And what camel case is the very first word of a variable, such as part name, will start with a lowercase letter for the first word. And then every word after that will be a uppercase for the first letter. So like part name of block. But the first letter of the first word will always be lowercase. And then every letter of the first word after that will be uppercase. Personally, I don't like that. I like every word to start with a capital letter. And it really doesn't matter. That's just the way I like it. And that works for me. But do what feels best for you. You could have every letter lowercase and it would still work just the same. Just make sure that whatever you name it, you use the same capitalization when you call it later in the script. So that's going to be it for this episode. If you have any questions, definitely comment below and let me know, and I will be happy to help you. So I'd love if you guys would try this on your own. And if you want to try using something like the part name equals script.parent.name, that'd be awesome just to play around with it. If you don't get it, just drop it in the comments and I'll give you a little advice or I'll point you in the right direction. But go ahead and practice making some variable names and then printing them and comment below what script you make. I'll see you guys next time.